It was nearing midnight when I got the call for a delivery to an unfamiliar address on Fairmont Street. The area was on the outskirts of town, quiet, dark, and surrounded by woods. The houses were spaced far apart, and most had no lights on. My GPS was glitchy, and I had to rely on vague street signs to find the place. When I arrived at the house, I hesitated. The driveway was overgrown with weeds, and the house itself was pitch black. The windows were like hollowed-out eyes, and the porch light was broken. I double-checked the receipt and confirmed the address. I grabbed the pizza bag, took a deep breath, and headed up the creaky wooden steps. I knocked on the door. No answer. The whole place was eerily silent, no sounds of a TV, no muffled footsteps, nothing. Just as I turned to leave, I heard it, a faint whisper coming from behind me. "Over here," it said. I spun around, but no one was there. I froze, scanning the yard. Then I saw it, movement near the trees. A shadowy figure crouched low to the ground, watching me. My stomach dropped when I saw something metallic glinting in their hand. Without a second thought, I dropped the pizza and bolted for my car. As I started the engine, the headlights illuminated two figures standing at the edge of the driveway, motionless, staring. When I got back to the shop, I reported the incident to my manager. His face went pale. "That address is flagged," he said. "A driver went missing delivering there last year. The cops never found him." It was a rainy night, and I was sent to a delivery on the outskirts of town. The instructions were weird. Use the side door. When I arrived, the house looked abandoned, boards covered most of the windows, and the yard was overrun with weeds. The only light came from a dim bulb hanging above the side entrance. I knocked on the side door. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time, and called out, "Pizza delivery!" Still nothing. Just as I was about to leave, I noticed a flicker of movement in one of the upstairs windows. A pale face stared down at me, pressed against the glass. I shivered and called out again, "Hello?" But the face didn't move, it just watched. Then the light inside the house flickered and went out completely, plunging the place into darkness. I was done. I started walking back to my car when I heard footsteps behind me. They were slow and deliberate, crunching on the wet gravel. I looked around, but no one was there. Then I heard the sound again, this time coming from the side of the house. I ran to my car and drove away as fast as I could. The next day, I mentioned the delivery to a coworker. His eyes widened, and he told me something that made my blood run cold. The house had been condemned for years. No one was supposed to live there. It was my last delivery of the night, and the address was an apartment complex on the other side of town. The note on the order was strange. "Bring to apartment B2, basement level." When I arrived, the place looked like it hadn't been maintained in decades. Trash littered the yard, and the building's paint was peeling off in chunks. I found the stairwell leading to the basement. The walls were damp, and the air was stale. When I reached the door marked B2, I knocked. A voice from inside said, "Come in." It wasn't inviting, it was raspy, almost mechanical, like it had been forced out of someone's throat. The door creaked open, and I peered inside. The room was dimly lit by a single bulb. My heart stopped when I saw what was inside: mannequins. Dozens of them, all seated at a long dining table, as if frozen mid-conversation. Some were missing heads or arms, and others were positioned in unnatural poses. At the center of the table was an open pizza box with half-eaten slices. The mannequins seemed to stare at it like they were waiting for something, or someone. Before I could process what I was seeing, I heard heavy footsteps coming from the hallway behind me. I didn't look back. I dropped the pizza bag and sprinted out of the building, the sound of footsteps echoing behind me. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. When I told my manager, he laughed nervously. "Must have been a prank," he said. But the look in his eyes told me he didn't believe that any more than I did. This order was unusual from the start. The address was for a cabin deep in the woods, far from any main roads. The directions were handwritten on the receipt, warning that GPS wouldn't work. I had to follow the instructions carefully to avoid getting lost. The drive was unsettling. The dirt road leading to the cabin was barely wide enough for my car, and the trees were so dense they blocked out the moonlight. By the time I reached the cabin, it was almost 1 a.m. The place was old and decrepit, with ivy crawling up the walls and broken windows. A faint light flickered inside, like a candle. I knocked on the door, but there was no answer. Just as I was about to leave, I heard humming. It was soft at first, then louder, coming from the forest behind the cabin. I turned around and saw shadows moving between the trees. At first I thought they were people, but their movements weren't human. They were too quick, too fluid. The humming grew louder, almost deafening. The shadows emerged from the trees, and I saw their glowing eyes. Panic set in. I threw the pizza on the porch and bolted to my car. As I sped down the dirt road, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The shadows were standing in the middle of the road, staring after me, their glowing eyes cutting through the darkness. The next morning, my manager told me the customer called to complain that their pizza never arrived. I didn't even bother explaining. I quit that day. Thank you for watching. See you next time.